The Travma Revival is a European cooperation project, and it was initiated by Beaux-Arts as a leading partner, and fellow partners were from 5 different countries in Europe and Eastern Europe, including the Media Center in Karzule and also the Pushkin Art Museum in Russia. The initial questions of the cooperation project were in regards to the post-war period and how cultural relations developed from 1945 to 1968. The project is divided into various phases. The first phase was a traveling exhibition called Facing the Future that went from Brussels to Karzule to Moscow. The second phase was a series of residencies by contemporary artists, and the third phase was a finally traveling exhibition on contemporary art between Eastern and Western Europe that traveled from Riga to Krakow and then back to Brussels. So the project is an overview of how we can define in a way what the West and what the East is through artistic practices. So my role as curator and then editor of the final publication happened over the 3-year period of the research of the cooperation project of Travma and Revival. I was hired in 2016 as curator of a 3-week residency for international artists that took place at Fondazione Pistoletto in Turin. At the end of the residency, I was then hired by Beaux-Arts to be editor of the final publication of the whole project. And my role was to secure or to discuss different contents that came out from both the residencies and the final publication. To define the role of art today, or to define the role of art in general, is a very difficult question. What the project asked itself was, what is the role of art within social and political processes, and if this role can actually define what cultural relations are between Eastern and Western part. The development of the project then showed that the existence of art as a participant within social and political processes is quite valid, but also that these social and political processes have changed to the point where maybe we can in some ways assume that we can speak of pan-Europeanism, so we can speak of an area of pan-Europe in which the eastern part and western part are connected, but also how do we speak about internationalism. Art has a very important role to play within the current situation of conflict, and the project in some ways addressed how it can confront difficult and situations within the current localities. So Travma and Revival, I think, really managed to become a very important research project, first of all, and in its various phases. It promoted a unification rather than a separation between East and West Europe through a series of exhibitions, workshops, conferences that tried to tackle this separation. One of the main outcomes was setting up a network of people who collaborated on the project, and I believe that this collaboration will also be important for the future, and that's one of the main goals and main achievements also of the project. The other achievement of the project is the fact that the publication in some ways presents a map of current concerns within the art field and the cultural sector, And it really does push forward the questions, or the initial questions, that Trauma and Revival asked itself, or the partners within the project asked themselves. And so the final achievement is to have a platform that will continue to discuss these issues through the publication.